Greetings viewers, my name is Mdungas Kumbuzo and welcome to another segment of FMS Reaction to Topical Issues. So today we'll be talking with Prof. Harris, where we'll be unpacking about some of his 4 PhD students that he's supervising from Palestine. In the news, as you have seen, countries like France, UK and Canada have also announced that they will recognize Palestine as a sovereign state in the upcoming UN General Assembly that will be in September. Prof. Harris, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm good. So, first question that I would like to ask is that what experience have you gained professionally and personally from working with the 4 Palestinian students that are conducting their PhD studies?
Well, I have to say they're very good students, very good in expressing themselves in English. They've all completed research proposals in, I wouldn't say record time, but very quickly. So they're very competent. I think what I've learned is it's reinforced my understanding of apartheid. Now, I wasn't actually in South Africa during apartheid. I came here in 1999. But it's helped me understand what it's like to live in an occupied country with an oppressor, and an oppressor based on race. And I don't think I really got that much before, but it's quite clear that that's what's happening in Palestine. Israel is like a colonial power of one race, which is oppressing another race, and so that's in one sense the major conflict that's happening. But as well as that, just like we have conflicts here on a day-by-day basis, so do Palestinians have them between Palestinians, between different factions and groups within Palestine. And so my students are focusing on that second type. They're not focusing on Israel versus Palestine. That's a very important issue, but that's very large. But they are doing things which, their research is focusing on issues to try and build peace by having effective conflict resolution on day-by-day matters. Yeah. And I can talk about some of those if you like.
I think I will be very much interested to hear that. What are they actually researching, and how do you think their project might contribute to the lasting peace and security in the region?
Yeah, so if I give you the 4 examples, so Ahmed Kadi is looking at political conflicts. So just like we have political parties that conflict with each other and sometimes it breaks into violence, so do they. And his interest is actually in the use of social media as a form of attack and a form of communication and attack. So that Hamas and Fatah are 2 very large parties, and they spend a lot of time slanging each other verbally. And so he's going to analyse that and then go to each of the parties, try and get them together in some way, perhaps the leadership, and set some rules for engagement. How will we speak to each other, and try and tone down the language, and also in that way influence the attitudes of one party towards the other. So that's a very interesting one. Okay,
so before, sorry to interject, given the situation in Palestine, we know some of the scenes that we are seeing on TV, people doesn't have food, the issue of famine. So does your student, because of citizen, I think maybe they might not have access to social media and have those discussions. So is he only looking at how the politicians engage on social media? Or
look, I think I've not been to Palestine, and so I can't speak from personal experience, but I think there are a range of people there, some very professional. It's a very well-educated place. And I'm really talking more about the West Bank, more than Gaza. I mean, Gaza is an absolute war zone, and just appalling. I mean, just appalling.
Okay.
And the Gazan students are not allowed out. There's no way they could continue studying. My students are from the West Bank, also known as the occupied territories, and they do have, generally speaking, quite good internet access, and they use social media. They're smart, as I said. Their knowledge of social media and their skills in that area are a lot more than mine. Yeah. So another one, Mohammed Rabia, is working. He works in local government, and there are many local governments, just as we have them here, and they face all sorts of conflicts about service delivery. There's faction fighting within. You know, who's going to be appointed manager here? That's a very important one here. Are they politically connected, and so on? Are they appointed on merit, or are they appointed because they're out of nepotism and so on? Same issues in Palestine. And then there's the whole range of, well, how effective are they in meeting the needs of their people, or their constituents? And how could you make that more efficient? And that a lot of that, the efficiency really comes from first establishing better relationships between people who work there. So that's his focus, to try and build efficiency, but by working through, not through law, but through enhancing relationships. Then Wessam Tuyua, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he is looking at traditional clan-based conflict resolution methods. And just like throughout Africa, we have traditional methods built around restorative justice, where people get together and talk it out, often in large groups. So that's also the case in Palestine. And those procedures are suffering a bit because it's an occupied country and so on. So what he wants to do is to strengthen them, to strengthen their effectiveness and their legitimacy, so that they're used more often to solve or to resolve sort of, you know, local family, community-based conflicts. And then the last one, Saeed Rabia, he works in the solid waste management industry. He's a public servant based in Jerusalem, and that, I mean, it's a bit like under apartheid. You had public servants who dealt with Indians, and public servants who dealt with Africans, and sub-public servants who dealt with whites. So it is in Jerusalem in particular. So he then has to negotiate, you know, the solid waste management with Israeli authorities who have got military and political control. And so he's going to set up what he hopes is an infrastructure, and that'll be committees and so on, which will help make that whole process better. And again, a lot of it's about relationships. If you know someone, then you can talk to them about issues. If they're just a face, you know, or a name that you write emails to, then you probably don't get a hearing and they don't take notice. And your job in managing solid waste in this case is so much more difficult. Yeah. So that's the range. Yeah. Mm.
So, given the new development that are happening in Palestine, also we've seen how the UK, France, and Canada have also announcing that they will now start to recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. So, what can we say to the community of peace and security can do to actually support, especially students like yours that are engaging in research, to try and give inner insights of what is happening? So what kind of support would you pledge to the outside institution academic institution or even the community at large that we can give to these students? Because I'm assuming they might have a lot of challenges, the logistical challenges, to see how the war conflicts have caused the situation there in Palestine.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, I see, and I think I see this with all peace studies students, that it's a small drop in a very large bucket. But if you can help even one household interact better in terms of dealing with their conflicts, because conflict is, I'll just draw the distinction between a conflict, which is just a difference, different wants, different needs and so on, and violence, which is a choice. And if you can help people deal with their conflicts better, then you are building peace. Whether it's within one household, within a school, as many of our South African students work in schools and other institutions, or whether it's in a community-wide. So everything has got the potential to make some difference. And that's partly why we encourage students to do what we call action research, because that gets them out there into a school, for example, or into a community doing something, not just putting a tape measure around it and say, well, 58% of people are suffering from violence. The government should do something. Well, they won't. And so we say to our students, well, once you've found it's 58%, well, now what are you going to do? You're going to train, for example, you might end up training people in better ways of handling their conflicts. You might set up peace committees. There are many, you might get people together and have dialogue, because that fundamentally, I think, is vital. And so I'd say that's the same message I'd be getting across to these Palestinian students and to other students as well, that dialogue is a much more effective way of doing things than force. And they live in a situation, as under apartheid, which was all force. I mean, the white apartheid government did not want to talk to black leaders. Forget it. No, we're in charge, we're running things, and you'll obey, or you'll get beaten up or jailed or killed or something like that. Same story in Palestine. That's why South Africa actually gets Palestine. They get it because they've gone through it. So what we're saying is there's an alternative. It's not a matter of force doesn't work. It didn't work under apartheid. It's just going to it's going to brutalise everyone, the victims and the offenders as well, the people who are doing it. So we're saying there is another way. And I mean, one difference between, I think, South Africa and Israel and Israel-Palestine is that we got a one-state solution.
Yeah.
But I must say, I think the damage that's being done to Palestinians by the Israeli government and military is so much worse. I think it's going to destroy relationships for a very, very long time, for generations. And so to me, having two states makes a lot of difference. And I guess better trained people who think non-violently, think peace and so on, is a contribution to that.
Okay, last question. We've seen many disinformation circulating around on social media about the number of deaths that are happening in Palestine. So how would you say, or how would you think that, are we recognizing enough the research that is done by students like yours? Because I'm thinking that if you look at people that are within the community that are doing this kind of projects, they are evidence-based. It's unlike us who are outside. So do you think, are we recognizing enough work that is coming out from people that live within, have the experience and conducting research, so that we might have a better view of what is actually happening in the Palestine? Because we've seen even in the Hague case between South Africa and Israel, there were a lot of news that were circulating around, but those are outsiders. News that are reported by Al Jazeera and many other media organizations. So would you say these organizations, are they recognizing enough the work that is done by people within so that they can have a better view, or they just don't want to take the insights that is given by the students that live within Palestine?
Yeah, and early on in that question you used the word disinformation, and you get, even this morning I read one that I think the Palestinian Authority said that the number of trucks going into going into Gaza, being allowed into Gaza, I think, if I've got the number right, was something in the 20s, between 20 and 30. And Israel said, no, that's totally wrong, totally wrong. There are hundreds of trucks going in. So who are you going to believe? And I mean, you've got to go to reliable sources. That's true, and that's why interviewing people on the ground and taking notice of people on the ground is so much more important. I mean, we all have our biases. Absolutely, I've got mine. I mean, and the reason I'm doing this is because, that I went off and recruited Palestinian students is because I'm appalled by the long term, not just the Gaza. Gaza, not just Gaza being bombed relentlessly, which it has been, but just the whole system, apartheid system that's been going on for, decades and decades and decades. But yeah, we have to get reliable information on the ground. And my only comment is the United Nations organisations have got no particular reason to lie. So if you're comparing, if the United Nations said 25 trucks went through and Israel said 150, I'd believe the United Nations, but because why would they lie? I mean, and so on. But yeah, we do need, it would make no, and just going back to the whole idea of research, it would have no effect if I sat here and sat in front of a computer and wrote papers on Israel and Palestine. What effect would that have on what's happening? And the answer is nothing. But if I can facilitate students who are there on the ground, who know the situation, who know the nature of the conflicts and so on, and build their capacity, then that's so much better. Because look, a two-state solution will happen. I'm hoping I'm still going to be alive when it happens.
Yeah.
But it will happen, and when it happens, we're going to need people, just like we still need them in South Africa, to bring us out of that tragic and violent past. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Harris, thank you very much for your time, and we're looking forward to read the findings of the student and hear what come out of that research they are doing. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Well, viewers, that was Prof. Harris from DUT International Center for Nonviolence, unpacking the research work that is done by 4 PhD students from Palestine. As you have seen, the research topic that they are doing, and we're just waiting to see what the research findings that will come up of their projects. Thank you very much. Let's meet again next time in the next episode. This is FMS Reaction to Topical Issues. I thank you.